of German manhood. In 1914, the war came along, giving a disgruntled Fuhrer the opportunity he had been waiting for. He could now escape the embarrassment of his son's deformity and the screeching of his wife as she constantly complained about his drinking. Fuhrer was a fearless soldier, enjoying nothing more than a good bayonet charge over no man's land, followed by a spot of hand-to-hand fighting. He was decorated with an Iron Cross, second class, for his bravery. After the war, he found himself a wealthy widow in Regensburg, Bavaria, who had 2 able-bodied sons he could be proud of. He opened a new butcher shop and started his life over again, sending Ingrid a spiteful letter ending their marriage and threatening her with all kinds of indignities if she set out to find him. He happily directed his army pension her way and let her keep the apartment, washing his hands of his past life forever. "Tell everyone I was killed in the war," he wrote, "especially that crippled boy of yours." Ingrid had no choice other than to raise Bernd on her own, and she made it known that Fuhrer had died in the trenches. She was a war widow, one of many in those times. It was only because of the generosity of her brother Dieter that she managed financially, and he was the only person who knew the truth about Fuhrer. Bernd grew to be a sickly youth, pale-skinned and clingy, constantly on the lookout for attention and sympathy. Because of his legs, he was bullied at school, and he gained the unfortunate nickname of Bandy. Unable to play sport and disinterested in lessons, he also proved to be useless on the dating scene when he moved into his teens. While others of his age were busy groping and fondling their way towards losing their virginities, the closest Bernd got to having sex was looking through a hole in the wall of the girls' changing sheds and masturbating. Bernd was 13 years old when his uncle Dieter tried to enroll him in the fledgling Hitler Youth Organization. Desperate for members, they took the boy, and Dieter was certain they would make a man of him. But he only lasted 3 months before being thrown out for a lack of commitment. By the time 1936 came along, as a lazy 23-year-old with no work experience whatsoever, Bernd was rejected by the Wehrmacht, the German army. Dieter felt he had little choice but to take his nephew into the family printing business as a lowly cleaner. Despite pushing a broom around for 10 hours a day, Bernd felt a new kind of importance, and he adopted an attitude that did not endear him to his fellow workers. He may have been starting at the lowest rung of the ladder, but he was going to progress quickly because his uncle owned the business. At nights and on the weekends, Bernd started to hang around the local beer hall, where he boasted to anyone who would listen that he would one day run his uncle's firm. However, one look at him was enough to confirm that he was full of bravado. He managed to impress some people, but only when he paid for their steins. "The day will come," he told them, "when everyone will know who I am." At the age of 6 months, Klara was found on the doorstep of a small Catholic church outside Schwedt, near the German border with Poland. A piece of paper had been tied to her foot with string, giving her date of birth and first name. Everything else was a mystery. She was farmed out to the community with best intentions, but rampant poverty saw her passed from one family to another many times. She grew to prefer her own company to that of others, and was considered to have no real prospects. Klara was fresh-faced, slender, and delicate in a childlike way, with an air of innocence that made her appear many years younger than she actually was. Although halfway through her teens, she still looked like a prepubescent 10-year-old. Eventually, it appeared that Klara had found somewhere to settle. Her new home was with a God-fearing farming family in Winsen, Lower Saxony. With 8 children and another on the way, it was considered that one more child would make little difference. In fact, it actually helped, because Klara was old enough to do many of the chores that her new mother could no longer manage due to her pregnancy. Klara's new Catholic family were strong on discipline and weak on love, but the girls soon settled in and learned how to grow vegetables, slaughter chickens, and cook good, basic German food. The master of the house, a large, bearded farmer, aptly named Wolf, started to take an